Wait, I know what you're thinking. Right now, you're thinking, why the hell would I listen to the opinion of a Chris Angel-looking Motley Crue reject? I get it. I wanted to see if I could do this video real quick because I've been meaning to put some things on my channel. About a month ago, I actually said I was going to do that during a live stream on Twitter, and I never got around to it. I went ahead and did the After Effects to get a cool intro, or what I think is cool, and just never had any follow through. We've had a lot going on here with Poison the Well, which is our main channel, and really there hasn't been any extra time. Over the weekend, I listened to Tina Fey's book, Bossy Pants, and in that book, she shamed me with how hard she worked on 30 Rock and her other projects, and it made me realize I've just got to find more hours. I work a full-time job, and, well, more than full-time, and I put a lot of energy into that. And then, of course, we have Poison the Well, which is a project I do with Patrick, and it's very important. So I never really got started on this channel. It really is just a place where I want to put out some opinions and maybe clarify some bullshit I posted on Twitter. And that's about it. When it comes to my political views, and I am a liberal. Patrick, my partner in Poison the Well, is a conservative. And I feel like that leads our channel to stick pretty close to the middle, even though we tend to take shots at both sides. We take more at the left. I think that's pretty clear. But it's not a place where we just sit down and talk about politics. We tell jokes, and we poke fun at things, and we have a lot more coming up, and hopefully that's going to go really well. So tonight, I actually got something I wanted to talk about because of a little bit of a Twitter spat I got into today, and I wanted to clarify myself a little bit. So why not do it here? In like an hour and a half, I'm going to play some Diablo 3 with some friends of mine. So instead of wasting this time, let's see if we can go ahead and put some thoughts into the little camera box. James Damore. It's a name I'm sure you've heard a lot of this week. He's the guy who wrote the Google Manifesto that went around the Google offices that ended up getting him fired. Now, I read the manifesto, and we won't go over that in detail here. There's a couple of good videos I think that can summarize this for you, and I actually thought the Britisher had a pretty good take, and I'll link that in the description. But I read the manifesto, and man, I didn't find it outrageous. I didn't think James Damore was unhinged or out of his mind. I think the points he made were reasonable and fairly well thought out. The introduction and the conclusion, both, he goes out of his way to try to say that he understands that sexism and racism and other isms exist. And he's not trying to, claim that they don't. He's just saying that since Google tends to lean left and fairly hard, and I'll admit that it creates an area where conservatives feel like they can't have an open discussion about these issues. Well, since I'm a liberal in Georgia, I can understand that feeling. This is an area of the country where, as a liberal, it's kind of hard to talk about the way I see things. And sometimes I feel like I have to keep quiet with my opinions. And so some of his opinions about, accelerating people of color and women and, accelerating their careers while excluding white males, particularly cis white males, the worst kind. So anyway, we won't get into the whole manifesto. I recommend you go read it so you can form your own opinions. I know there's some controversy out there. Some people see it as absolutely sexist and racist and all the other ists. And you know what? I don't see that, but maybe you guys can leave your opinions in the comments and let me know why you think those things may be true. But regardless, Google let James Damore go. You know what? Let's not pussyfoot around it. Google fired James Damore. Now, I felt like that went too far, and I felt like it kind of made his point that certain opinions couldn't be expressed, that there isn't a free and open dialogue like Google claims that they want to have in their company. So man, me and many of the other people that are my friends, I'd say the vast majority of my friends, both on YouTube and in real life, man, thought that was fucked up. They didn't agree with it. And me too. I felt Google went too far, and they sort of proved his point. So, I left comments on some videos, and I'm not sure I tweeted about it, but maybe I did. And I thought I'd made it pretty clear that I thought it was fucked up and that what he said was reasonable and at least worth discussing, not just outright dismissing and firing him for having his opinions. Well, actually last night, Tuesday night, James did his first interview on the subject. And you know what? I'm gonna have a shot. Let's have a couple shots. So, so James did his first interview, and he chose to do it on YouTube on Stefan Molyneux's channel. Now, if you don't know who Stefan Molyneux is, I don't really want to get into explaining him either, but a lot of people see him as an alt-righter. I'm not sure that's the right description, but I don't see a lot of people arguing against it. His views on race and everything can be kind of extreme, and I feel like a lot of people, including shitlords, really don't consider him as a part of the group. I don't. I think he's kind of far out there, and I also think he has a perception in the public of probably being even farther out there than he actually is. But that's what I want to talk about today. Optics. I made a tweet earlier saying that James Damore, who I had supported, chose Stefan Molyneux as his first interview, and that was bad optics. This is what I said. Bad optics. Now, optics, when it comes to politics, is a more serious way to explain appearances, or that looks like. So, when we talk about bad optics, we're talking about how this looks, how it appears to the general public. Not everybody is combing through the depths of YouTube, getting all these opinions and studying political science and watching the news and politics and glued to C-SPAN all the fucking time. They're just not. People get their news nowadays from tweets they see, little tidbits on their social media, and rants by their crazy uncle on Facebook. And they form opinions very quickly. And there's also a very, very big tendency for confirmation bias. So, my point with feeling like James Damore had made a bad decision by going to Stefan Molyneux as his first interview was that the left, and by that, you know, like I said, I stated earlier, I'm a liberal, but what I'm talking about is farther left than me. The real social liberals. You might say SJWs in particular. This gives them fuel. They were very happy to see James Damore fired. And they were making all this claims that he's a racist and a sexist, you know, maybe even an alt-righter. So the optics on that were already being spun by a lot of media outlets and by, you know, social justice warriors on social media and YouTube. So by choosing to go on an interview with Stefan Molyneux as his first place, it looks like they're right. To the average person who's just getting their news in tidbits, not digging in and not really listening to the interview, listening to what he has to say, reading the manifesto, they're taking these quick tidbits and they're like, I knew it. I told you. He's an alt-righter. We were right all along. Man, this looks bad. Bad optics. So, I got a little bit of pushback on Twitter. And one One guy in particular, Garbage the Rabbit. Now let me give you a tip, Garbage. His name is actually Bones the Rabbit. That's his Twitter handle, and the garbage meme is just about done. We get it. It's just like, you still see those Twitter people out there who are still calling them Deplorable Sam. Look, we know something was said. It really upset a lot of people, and you're one of the ones who are still upset months or even almost a year later. We can let the garbage thing go. So Garbage the Rabbit took my tweet and retweeted it. He quote tweeted it. And in it, he typed, "Oh noes, this guy's talking to a person that I don't like." Making it sound like I'm one of these assholes who's like just butthurt because I don't like Stefan Molyneux, and therefore I don't like this guy that I support or, was defending talking to somebody I don't like. I guess in a way that's true, but it's a bit of a misrepresentation of what I was saying. What I was saying was that he had made a bad decision. I listened to parts of the interview, and it didn't sound like he was saying anything that was out of line. He wasn't acting unhinged. He wasn't doing the Stefan Molyneux bit. He was talking about some things that that had happened at Google that he interpreted as, as Google creating a safe space, and that conservatives weren't allowed to express their opinion and these things, and that's all fine. I didn't disagree or have really much of an opinion about that, but what I did say was this is bad optics. So Garbage the Rabbit then started a conversation on Twitter with me that I really didn't ask for. I felt like he had misrepresented me with that, that it was a butthurt thing, but really what I was saying was it's a bad move. So I tried to explain this to Garbage the Rabbit, that people were going to see this and interpret this and then just mark him off. James Damore is an alt-righter. There's no need to listen to any more of his opinion. I was right all along. So he went on to start this debate about, well, it's my opinion. I was like, well, I didn't think he was crazy. I thought he had made some good points, and it's worth a discussion at least. Well, Garbage the Rabbit then wanted to pursue this. Well, how can I consider myself a centrist, or that if I won't fight back against optics, against how people interpret these things. And the fact of the matter is, I tell dick jokes on another channel. I don't have the power to fight back. I'm not an activist. I'm not going to go out in the streets to fight how people interpret news bites and social media clips that they see. I just know that this is how they will interpret it. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think so. I see it already happening, and I know a lot of you probably do too. They're already painting him as an alt-righter because of his first decision. I don't think that's fair. I want to be clear. I don't think he's an alt-righter. I don't think the views that he expressed match up with the definition of the alt-right. But because he had an interview, and yes, associated with himself with Stefan Molyneux, people are going to think that. I never said I thought that. I pushed back against that. But the fact of the matter is, I think Garbage the Rabbit had dug in his heels and was just determined to paint me as a do-nothing son of a bitch. And I feel like that's a little bit unfair. So the reason I wanted to make this video was to talk just a little bit about that, but make sure that people were clear that optics matter. Politics are based on optics. You can find so many stories that aren't really the way people interpreted them because of sound bites or because of actions or things that people said or did to put everything into a sound bite, and then the populace eats it up. So James Damore, whose opinion, man, I think is worth discussing, and on most of those points I absolutely agree with him, he made a bad move. Now, today I think he went and did an interview with Jordan Peterson, which I'm going to listen to later, but I'm sure it's probably a lot of the same content, and he's hoping to reach a different audience. I think Jordan Peterson would have been a better choice for that first interview than Stefan Molyneux. It would have avoided you know, him being just quickly painted as an alt-righter and his opinions brushed off as a sexist and a bigot. Man, these are things that people should be aware of when you've got a spotlight on you like that. Man, the people you first start associating with, those are going to be the marks that are made. I'm sure he's going to do a lot of interviews. He's going to be on TV. He's going to be on YouTube. And Julian Assange has even offered him a job. And tell me this, does Julian Assange not look like he just got off the cast of Game of Thrones? I mean, Julian, we all love Game of Thrones, but we don't all have to look like we're in it. But you know what? The fuck am I to fucking judge how somebody wants to fucking look? I look like this. Game of Thrones is actually pretty cool, and he's got that cool white hair. So whatevs, bro. You do you. So anyway, I hope I clarified this. I don't know. I sat down here and I said I was going to drink a beer and have a couple shots. I haven't really drank my beer. I've just sat here and fucking talked 90 miles a minute. So I'll throw this in the computer box and I'll post it up. And maybe you guys can give me a little feedback. I'll probably be doing stuff like this more often on this channel. Probably start doing some live streaming and stuff like that from different events or when we're doing things, and maybe even live stream while we're making Poison the Well videos and things like that. Also, the views that I've expressed here are not necessarily the views of Patrick. Even though I think on this matter, he probably doesn't have much of an opinion. He doesn't really give a fuck. So anyway, thanks for listening to me rant. I'll see you guys soon.